First Contact. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as the doors slid open. The assembled representatives of the 17 most powerful species in the known galaxy stared in unified bewilderment at the creature that walked in. Supreme Counselor Zolthran, his crystalline form glittering under the chamber's lights, leaned forward from his elevated podium. All 6 of his sensory appendages focused on the small, soft-looking biped that approached with a steady gait. Presenting, announced the automated system, Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth Exploratory Vessel Horizon, representative of the human species. The bipedal creature, human, stopped at the designated speaking position. It wore what appeared to be a formal uniform in deep blue with silver accents. Its exposed skin was a rich brown, and dark hair was pulled back tightly from its face. Most unsettling to many council members were its forward-facing eyes, a trait typically found in predator species. Honorable representatives of the Galactic Council, the human spoke, its voice clear and confident. I bring greetings from Earth and all human colonies. We are honored to stand before this august body and formally request recognition as a spacefaring civilization. Zolthran's crystalline form pulsed with the blue light of diplomatic formality. The Council acknowledges your request, Captain Reyes. Your species' sudden appearance at our borders has been noted. Particularly your rapid expansion into 3 previously unclaimed star systems in a mere 17 cycles. The human's face shifted, pulling its mouth into what some races recognized as a smile. We tend to work quickly when we're excited about something, Supreme Counselor. And space exploration has been humanity's dream for millennia. Elder NX Vala of the ancient Roxian collective chittered softly, the translator rendering her words, such rapid expansion is unprecedented. Most species take centuries to establish viable colonies beyond their home system. Humans are adaptable, Captain Reyes replied simply. General Krav of the militant Drakis Imperium snorted, a plume of sulfurous gas escaping his breathing apparatus. Adaptable or aggressive? Our intelligence suggests your kind has survived multiple near-extinction events on your homeworld. Such crucibles forge either greatness or savagery. The human didn't flinch. Often both, General. But we've learned from our history. What happened next would be replayed in Council archives for centuries to come. Captain Elena Reyes stepped forward, extending her right hand towards Supreme Counselor Zolthran. On Earth, we seal important meetings with a handshake, a gesture of peace and goodwill. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Several security drones deployed automatically. 3 representatives activated personal shields. The Vrul ambassador secreted emergency toxins from his pores. The human stood perfectly still, hand extended, expression neutral despite the pandemonium. Order. Zolthran's voice boomed through the chamber, his crystalline form now pulsing red with authority. When silence fell, he addressed the human. Captain Reyes, approaching a council member without clearance is strictly prohibited. Your handshake gesture could be misconstrued as an attack. The human slowly withdrew her hand. I apologize for the misunderstanding. On Earth, physical contact to seal agreements is customary. I intended no disrespect. Fascinating, murmured Ambassador Tuvel of the scholarly Cerebrin Collective, his massive cranium pulsing with neural activity. Their diplomatic protocols involve ritualized physical contact. Most unusual for a spacefaring species. Most dangerous, corrected Security Minister Hesh of the insectoid Vex Hive. Physical proximity allows for countless potential hostile actions. Or trust, countered Elder NX Vala. To place oneself within striking distance deliberately suggests confidence or naivety. Captain Reyes remained composed throughout this exchange. When the council's attention returned to her, she spoke again. Perhaps I should elaborate on humanity's journey to the stars. It may provide context for our unusual customs. Zolthran gestured permission, and the human proceeded to describe Earth's tumultuous history of space exploration, from primitive chemical rockets to their recent breakthrough in faster-than-light travel. Only 30 Earth years separate our first satellite from our first lunar landing, she explained. And just 87 years from that achievement to our first interstellar colony. Impossible, whispered Trade Minister Quarrel of the Mercantile Phalanx Syndicate. Such advancement violates all known developmental patterns. Yet here they stand, Nxvala observed. As Captain Reyes concluded her presentation, the council fell into contemplative silence. Finally, Zolfran spoke. The council will deliberate on your petition for recognition, Captain Reyes. Until then, your vessel may dock at Outpost Gamma. A liaison will provide accommodations suitable for your species. The human bowed slightly. Thank you, Supreme Counselor. Earth looks forward to peaceful relations with all civilizations represented here. After the human departed, General Krav immediately activated the chamber's security field. This species represents a clear threat, he growled. Their advancement rate is unnatural. Their customs invasive. Their potential for disruption incalculable. They are certainly different, Zolfran acknowledged. But threat assessment requires more than speculation. Tuvel's cranium pulsed rapidly. Their technological progression suggests either remarkable innovation or... He hesitated. Or what? Demanded Krav. Or outside assistance, Tuvel finished. Though there's no evidence of such. Nxvala chittered thoughtfully. I am more intrigued by their willingness to engage in physical contact. In my 17,000 cycles, I've observed that species fall into two categories regarding physical boundaries, those evolved from solitary hunters who abhor proximity, and those evolved from pack or herd structures who embrace it. Meaning, prompted Zolfran. Meaning humans likely evolved as pack hunters. Cooperative predators. A rare evolutionary path among sentients. The chamber grew uncomfortably quiet. I propose immediate quarantine protocols, Krav insisted. Restrict their ships to designated sectors until we understand their true intentions. Trade Minister Quarrel's gill slits fluttered in disagreement. Premature. Their technological achievements suggest potential trade opportunities. My analysts project significant economic advantages from human commerce. Always the profit seeker, Krav sneered. While you count currency, they could be plotting infiltration. On the horizon, docked at Outpost Gamma, Captain Elena Reyes removed her formal uniform jacket and sighed heavily. How did it go? Asked Commander Marcus Ford, her executive officer. A tall man with copper skin and close-cropped gray hair, Ford had served with Reyes for over a decade. About as expected, she replied. They were shocked by the handshake offer, just as the Xenopsyche team predicted. Ford smiled. Cultural differences established. Did you get a read on the council members? The crystalline one, Zolfran, seems fair-minded. The insectoid was instantly hostile. The ancient one with all the limbs seemed more curious than concerned. She pulled up a chair at the conference table. Overall assessment, cautious but not immediately adversarial. Except for the Draki's representative, noted intelligence officer Prisha Sharma, entering the room with a data tablet. General Krav activated 3 different biological defense mechanisms during your presentation. Our sensors detected elevated toxin production consistent with aggression responses. Noted, Reyes said. What about post-meeting communications? Sharma's dark eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Just as predicted, they held an emergency session after you left. Our quantum listeners captured approximately 68% of the discussion. They're afraid of us, Ford stated, reviewing the data. Not afraid exactly, Reyes corrected. Uncertain. We don't fit their models of how emerging species should behave. She smiled slightly. That uncertainty gives us room to maneuver. Phase 1 complete, then, Ford concluded. Cultural introduction established, psychological assessments gathered, initial diplomatic channels opened. Yes. Captain Reyes looked out the viewport at the sprawling space station that housed the Galactic Council. Now we move to Phase 2. Commander, prepare the diplomatic team. Officer Sharma, alert Ambassador Volkov that he'll be deploying within 48 hours. And the contingency plans? Sharma asked quietly. Reyes' expression hardened slightly. Admiral Jackson's battle group remains on standby in the Tau Ceti system, just outside Council scanning range. But let's be clear, they're our insurance policy, not our primary strategy. Of course, Captain, Sharma nodded. Humanity has waited too long for this moment, Reyes said, her voice taking on a distant quality. First contact with the galactic community. The beginning of our expansion into the stars. She turned back to her officers, resolve evident in her posture. We will secure our place among these civilizations, preferably through friendship and cooperation, but through strength if necessary. For Earth, Ford said solemnly. For all humanity, Reyes corrected. Now, let's get to work. We have a galaxy to introduce ourselves to, and first impressions matter. As the human officers discussed their plans, they remained unaware that deep in the Council archives, Elder NX Vala was accessing ancient records, searching for information about the last time pack-hunting predators had joined the galactic community. The records were sparse, the species long extinct, but one fact stood out clearly: they had nearly conquered the galaxy before being stopped. NX Vala closed the file with a troubled click of her mandibles. Perhaps history wasn't about to repeat itself, but the parallels were disturbing enough to warrant careful observation of these humans. After all, any species whose first instinct was to touch another sentient being was either remarkably trusting, or dangerously confident. Diplomatic maneuvers. Ambassador Dmitry Volkov stood before the reflective surface in his quarters, adjusting the collar of his formal diplomatic attire. At 62, his once black hair had turned a distinguished silver, and lines of experience marked his face. Today would mark the official opening of Earth's first embassy in Galactic Council space, a milestone in human history. Ambassador, the delegation from the Cerebrin Collective has arrived early, announced his aide, Julian Ortiz, from the doorway. Volkov smiled. The scholars are always punctual. Very well, I'll be right there. The embassy itself was a marvel of human engineering and aesthetic sensibility. Located on a dedicated section of Central Station, the massive space habitat that housed the Galactic Council's administrative center, the structure combined Earth architectural styles from multiple cultures. Glass, steel, stone, and living plants created a space that was distinctly human yet accessible to alien visitors. As Volkov entered the main reception hall, he observed several Cerebrins already examining the Earth art displays with obvious fascination. Their large craniums pulsed with neural activity as they communicated silently among themselves. Ambassador Tuvel, Volkov greeted the lead Cerebrin warmly. Welcome to Earth's embassy. We're honored by your early arrival. The massive-headed alien turned, neural patterns shifting to acknowledge Volkov. Fascinating structure, Ambassador. Your species incorporates living organisms into your artificial environments. Most unusual. We find that maintaining a connection to nature keeps us grounded, Volkov explained, gesturing toward the indoor garden where Earth plants thrived under specialized lighting. Grounded. An interesting concept from a gravity-dependent species, Tuvel remarked. We've been studying your diplomatic archives since Captain Reyes's presentation. Your species has a remarkably complex history of international relations. Volkov nodded. We've had our share of conflicts and alliances. It's shaped our approach to diplomacy. Indeed. Your historical, Cold War particularly interests us, conflict without direct combat, fought through proxies and influence. Most, cerebral. Before Volkov could respond, a chime announced more arrivals. Over the next hour, representatives from 12 major galactic powers entered the embassy, each greeting Volkov according to their own customs. The ambassador had studied extensively, never faltering as he returned the proper gestures, sounds, or chemical releases required by each species' protocol. Most notable was the arrival of the Vrexian delegation. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, with iridescent scale-like skin and multiple upper limbs, the Vrexians were known as one of the more aggressive expansionist powers in the Council. Their representative, First Commander Zkval, regarded the human embassy with obvious disdain. Excessive, he commented to Volkov, mandibles clicking. Resources wasted on aesthetics rather than function. Typical of emerging species trying to impress. Volkov smiled diplomatically. We believe form and function need not be mutually exclusive, First Commander. Please, allow me to show you our hydroponics laboratory. I think you'll find our agricultural efficiency quite impressive. As the formal reception proceeded, Volkov deftly navigated the complex web of alien interests and rivalries. He introduced concepts of Earth cuisine, carefully modified for different biochemistries, and showcased human music, art, and scientific achievements. Most representatives responded with cautious interest. The Felix trade minister immediately proposed commercial agreements. The ancient Mroxian elder observed everything with enigmatic chittering. Only the Vrexian delegation remained aloof, watching the proceedings with calculating eyes. In a private chamber adjacent to the main reception hall, intelligence officer Sharma monitored the aliens' reactions through discrete sensors. Biological readings suggest positive engagement from most species, she reported to Captain Reyes via secure channel. The Cerebrins are particularly intrigued by our cultural exhibits. The Drakis military attaché spent 17 minutes examining our historical weapons display. And the Vrexians? Reyes asked. Hostile, as expected. Their biochemical signatures indicate suspicion and territorial concern. They've attempted to access restricted data networks 3 times already. Let them find the decoy archives, Reyes instructed. Make sure they discover the trade projections indicating our interest in sectors away from their territory. Already done, Captain. 3 levels below the embassy, in a secure facility hidden beneath official blueprints, Admiral Hiroshi Jackson reviewed tactical displays with his military staff. Though in his late 50s, Jackson's physique remained combat-ready, his movements precise and economical. The Vrexians have positioned 2 Dreadnought-class vessels near the Arcturus Gateway, reported Fleet Commander Octavia Diallo, pointing to the holographic map. Intelligence suggests they're concerned about our recent mining operations in the Tau Ceti system. Jackson nodded thoughtfully. Understandable. The system borders their trade routes. Have Ambassador Volkov propose a joint development initiative, suggest we're interested in scientific cooperation rather than resource competition. Sir, interjected Strategic Officer Benjamin Cohen, that contradicts our actual resource needs. The rare minerals in that system are critical for our expansion plans. I'm aware, Officer Cohen, Jackson replied calmly. But we need time. The Third Fleet won't be ready for deployment for another 6 months. Until then, we negotiate and prepare. He turned back to the map. What's the status of the prototype defense systems? The quantum shield generators are at 70% efficiency, Diallo reported. Dr. Patel's team believes they can achieve full capacity within 3 weeks. Good. And the Heimdall early warning network? Deployed and operational. We'll have advance notice of any fleet movements within 2 light-years of Earth-controlled space. Jackson's expression remained impassive, but satisfaction glinted in his eyes. Outstanding. Remember, our mission is deterrence, not provocation. Humanity is new to this galactic community, and we must establish ourselves as a power to be respected, not feared. He paused. At least, not yet. Back in the embassy reception, Ambassador Volkov had arranged the highlight of the ceremony, a cultural exchange presentation. Holographic displays activated throughout the hall, showing scenes from Earth, vast oceans, mountain ranges, bustling cities, and humans engaged in various activities from ordinary life to extraordinary achievements. We call our homeworld Earth, Volkov explained to the assembled aliens. But in many of our languages, we also call it Terra, and ourselves Terrans. We are but one species among countless stars, yet we bring our unique perspective to this galactic community. Tuvel of the Cerebrans gestured toward an image of humans engaged in athletic competition. Your species seems to value physical contests that serve no practical purpose. Fascinating. Volkov smiled. We call it sport, competitive physical activity that challenges our limits and brings us together. Which brings me to an invitation. He activated a different hologram, showing a stadium. Earth would like to host the first interspecies Olympic Games, where representatives from all council races can compete in events designed for their unique physiologies. The announcement caused immediate murmuring among the delegates. Such direct cultural interfacing was unprecedented. Most species maintained careful separation of their customs and traditions. Preposterous, declared First Commander ZK Vol of the Vrexians. Such integration of species activities violates natural order. On the contrary, countered Trade Minister Quarrel of the Phalanx, I see potential economic advantages. Interspecies sporting events could open new markets for adaptive equipment, specialized training methodologies, medical technologies. Always profit with you, Quarrel, ZK Vol sneered. While you calculate currency, these humans calculate influence. This Olympic Games is clearly a propaganda exercise. Elder NX Vala of the Mroxians chittered softly. Perhaps both perspectives hold truth. Influence and economy often intertwine. She turned her ancient eyes toward Volkov. A curious proposition, Ambassador. Your species continues to surprise. As the reception concluded, most delegates departed with expressions of cautious goodwill. The embassy opening had achieved its primary objective, establishing humanity's formal presence in council space. But undercurrents of tension remained, particularly with the Vrexian delegation, who departed without formal farewells. Later that evening, Volkov met with Captain Reyes and Admiral Jackson in the embassy's secure conference room. Overall assessment? Reyes asked, removing her formal uniform jacket. Mixed but promising, Volkov replied. The commercial species see opportunity. The scholarly races are intrigued. The ancient powers are watchful but not immediately hostile. And the Vrexians? Jackson inquired, his tone suggesting he already knew the answer. Overtly antagonistic, Volkov confirmed. They view our expansion as a direct challenge to their dominance in this sector. First Commander ZK Vol barely concealed his contempt. Jackson nodded. Intelligence reports they've accelerated military production at their core worlds. My analysts believe they're preparing for a show of force. How much time do we have? Reyes asked. 3 months, perhaps 4, Jackson estimated. They'll want to assess our capabilities before making any overt moves. Volkov sighed heavily. I had hoped diplomacy would buy us more time. The Council seems willing to recognize our claim to the systems we've already settled, but expansion beyond those borders will meet resistance, not just from the Vrexians but from the Council itself. Then we adapt, Reyes stated firmly. Commander Wei Lin's exploration teams have already identified potential systems beyond Vrexian scanning range. We accelerate colonization efforts in those sectors while maintaining diplomatic engagement here. A dangerous balancing act, warned Volkov. If the Council discovers we're establishing colonies outside our declared territories. They won't, Jackson assured him. The new stealth technology masks our ship signatures. As far as Council sensors are concerned, those regions remain unexplored. Reyes gazed out the viewport at the vast station that housed representatives from hundreds of worlds. Humanity spent centuries dreaming of this moment, contact with alien civilizations, joining a galactic community. But we also spent centuries preparing for the possibility that this community might not welcome us with open arms. Your handshake gambit proved that much, Volkov noted with a wry smile. Indeed. And now we navigate these waters carefully, extending one hand in friendship while keeping the other ready to defend ourselves. She turned back to her colleagues. Ambassador, continue your diplomatic initiative. The Olympic Games concept has potential to build goodwill among the non-Vrexian powers. Admiral, she continued, accelerate the deployment schedule for the defensive grid around our established colonies. I want them secured within 60 days. And the frontier operations? Jackson asked. Reyes's expression hardened slightly. Proceed as planned, but with enhanced security protocols. No communication with established colonies except through quantum-encrypted channels. As the meeting concluded, Ambassador Volkov remained behind for a moment, gazing at the holographic display of Earth rotating slowly above the conference table. We came so far to find we're not alone, he murmured. Now we must ensure we remain free to determine our own destiny among the stars. Outside the embassy, unnoticed by human sensors, a small Vrexian probe recorded the embassy's external communications and relayed them to a cloaked vessel at the edge of the system. First Commander Zkeval reviewed the data with growing concern. These humans expand too quickly, adapt too readily, he hissed to his second-in-command. The Council's complacency will be their undoing, and ours, if we do not act decisively. What are your orders, First Commander? Zkeval's multiple eyes narrowed. Prepare a formal petition to the Council for containment protocols against the human territories. And alert the Imperial fleet to begin mobilization. One way or another, this human expansion ends now. Across the galaxy, on the frontier beyond known space, Commander Wei Lin's exploratory vessel Pathfinder dropped out of FTL drive near an uncharted star system. Initial scans showed 2 potentially habitable worlds. Perfect, Lin murmured, her almond eyes bright with discovery. Begin detailed mapping and prepare colonization assessment protocols. If this system proves viable, we'll have another foothold before the Council even realizes we've been here. The chess pieces were moving. The game of galactic diplomacy and strategic positioning had begun in earnest. And humanity, despite its newcomer status, was playing to win. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.